Well, Cody Bradford's going to start the season on the IL, which means officially the Vandy Boys are competing for an opening day rotation spot. We'll talk about all that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Paddock, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about Cody Bradford starting the season on the IL, what it means for the Rangers rotation, who's going to be healthy for opening day, Jacob deGrom pushing his second start of the spring back, and the Rangers being rated a top 5 team in baseball according to the video game MLB The Show. Before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Now, the big news of yesterday is that Cody Bradford will not be ready for opening day. He is going to start the season on the IL with a little bit of soreness in his elbow. This is not anything particularly new from what we learned from the day before, just that something we kind of already suspected at that point. He's going to be shut down for 4 to 5 days. Thankfully, the Rangers have already done an MRI and it came back clean. There's no tear in the UCL or whatever other things are going on in an elbow. Nothing is torn. So it's not a case of Tommy John surgery or any kind of surgery like that, any kind of massive or extensive period of Cody Bradford being on the shelf. But it does mean he's not going to be ready for opening day. He can be shut down and not throw for 4 to 5 days. Maybe it could be as many as 10 days. But for every day that he sits on the shelf, which I'm hoping and thinking, the Rangers are thinking, they're optimistic at this point, or at least I am. They haven't said overtly that they're optimistic. But it seems like they avoided catastrophe with Cody Bradford. And it's going to take a little bit of time for him to be missing. They're not putting a timetable on it just yet. But for each day that he's not pitching, it's going to take him that amount of days to build back up to where he was before, which was 4 innings and 41 pitches. So if he's out for 5 days, then it'll take him 5 days from the time he starts throwing to get back to that level of 4 innings, 41 pitches. And when he's ready to actually start the season, it's going to be at full capacity, at 80 to 100 pitches, what the Rangers are kind of expecting for their stars, especially the ones that are coming off of seasons where they're not coming off of Tommy John surgery recovery, like Jacob deGrom and Tyler Mahle and Kumar Rocker. So the reins are going to be pulled back for those 3 guys. But for everybody else, the Rangers are going to want them to be full go, full tilt from the get-go on opening day. And so with Cody Bradford's spot up in the air, I don't imagine he'll miss more than 2-3 weeks, maybe 4. It depends on how long he's actually shut down for. But the first couple trips through the rotation, at least the first couple weeks, if he's starting the season on the IL, that is at least the 15-day IL for pitchers. So it's 10-day IL for hitters. But that's at least 2-3 starts. So April 14th, 13th, 12th is when he's going to be eligible to be back if he starts the season on the IL. So that's at least 2 starts, maybe 3, maybe 4, depending on how long he's actually out. So the door is open. It's officially open for Rocker and Leiter. It was unofficially cracked just a little bit open these last couple days, but with this news about Bradford starting the season on the IL, which again is a huge bummer for Bradford. He was having such a good season last year. He looked really good in camp as well, but he's going to miss a little bit of time. Thankfully, it's not too much. One last little Bradford thing I wanted to touch on is some of these ratings in MLB The Show, where the Rangers pitching is ranked pretty well. We'll talk more about that at the end of the show, but Cody Bradford being ranked as 79 is a real sign of respect. That's like a number 3 starter on a good team, and that's where the Rangers are. he's their number 3 rated starter. He's rated better than Tyler Mahle and John Gray, and I think that's an accurate rating and a nice testament to how good Cody Bradford is. But Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, they're coming. They are knocking on that door, and they are close to being ready. If it's Rocker or if it's Leiter, I'm not sure at this point. I know the Rangers aren't sure at this point. They probably won't know until, at the end of spring training. The Rangers are going to try and get as much information on how well these guys are doing, how ready these guys are to go and attack hitters 2, 3 times, maybe 4 times through the order. And at this point, you have to think that Jack Leiter is the leader in the clubhouse right now. Now, Rocker's ceiling is a lot higher. I thought heading into camp that Rocker would be one of the Rangers' 3, 4 best starters. I thought it was going to be a cinch that he would lock up this rotation spot, but he hasn't looked great so far in camp. In his most recent start, which was on the backfields, he looked much, much better. The reason for his first couple of starts being often, the results were bad, but the process didn't look all that bad. I mean, a lot of his misses outside the zone were close misses. I mean, he was living right on the edges of the zone, exactly what you like to see with Rocker, a guy who has much better command than Leiter and much better control than Leiter. He's more in the strike zone. He doesn't quite have that velocity. He's not sitting 98 like Jack Leiter is. He doesn't have that nasty changeup like Jack Leiter is busting out, but he's got premium velocity as well. And Rocker's rock ball, slider, curveball, whatever you want to call it, is nastier than any pitch that Jack Leiter has, and probably nastier than just about any pitch that anybody has in the whole world. It's a top 5 pitch in baseball. It's just that good. But he hasn't quite refined all of the command of that, of getting hitters to, chase it, to respect it for strikes, and to chase it out of the zone with some of those nasty swings that we've seen in the minors. We've seen them a couple of times at the big league level, but there are also going to be some limiters on Kumar Rocker in a way that there aren't on Jack Leiter. Leiter has never had Tommy John surgery. He hasn't had shoulder surgery. He hasn't had knee surgery. He hasn't had really much of any history at this point of injuries. He's been a much healthier player than Rocker at this point. So, the reins are going to be off for Jack. If the Rangers think that he's one of their best 5 starters, I think there's a possibility that he goes, 25, 30 starts. I don't think he's going to go 32 starts and 200 innings because he hasn't, built up to that workload as a professional, but he hasn't had the same kind of limits that I think will be placed on Rocker in terms of pitch count, in terms of innings limits and things like that. So, but in terms of who's actually ready, who I think is closer to it, needs a little bit less refinement. I still need to see a couple more starts from Rocker. I think Rocker's more ready to step into that role for a couple of starts and then get sent back down, and so the Rangers can be a little bit more careful with his innings. With Leiter, he's close. I mean, he's made significant progress this spring training, and adding those 2 new pitches, adding the sinker, the 2-seamer, and that new kick changeup that looks absolutely disgusting and is playing very, very well. He looks so much better. The fastball velocity is up. It's easy. It's missing in the right places when he's missing the zone. He's not just, only relying on his fastball to throw it for strikes. He's, living up in the zone where his fastball is basically untouchable. At this point, he's able to land more of his off-speed, his non-fastball stuff in the zone for strikes, but he just needs to be in the strike zone just a little bit better. When he's throwing that kick changeup, he talked in an interview with Foul Territory about how, hey, I need to be throwing that in the zone early to get ahead, and then when I'm ahead of hitters in pitchers counts, then I can throw it for chase. Then I can throw it out of the zone. But early on, he's like, I need to be better about getting in the zone to get ahead in those counts so that hitters have to be more protective, so that they have to expand the zone a little bit more. That's the one thing really with Leiter. In that start where he walked 5 and he also struck out 5, and they only put 2 balls in play of the 25 swings that they had. One was soft contact for a ground out, and one of them was a line drive single into right field. I mean, that stat still blows my mind of how he threw 50-something pitches, nearly 60 pitches in a game, had 25 swings, and only 2 of them were put in play. That's just bonkers stuff. But he needs to be just a little bit more in the zone to be more economical with that pitch count, to, go through an order multiple times. Now he's got legit 5 pitches that are good pitches. I think a couple of them could be double plus. I mean, the curveball, I think that's getting closer to being the elite level curveball that we saw from him in college. The four-seam fastball has always been a double plus pitch. It's about the usage and the command of it and the other stuff of getting hitters off it. The shape and velocity and all that good stuff, that's always been elite on the four-seam fastball. And he just drops in the sinker there at the same velocity band, and he's using it very, very effectively. That I think is also 65 grade, maybe double plus pitch. This kick changeup, that's also just a new double plus pitch that he just pulled out of nowhere. He had a regular boring changeup that was kind of nothing last year, and he bust this out. Then if he can get the slider too, he still has a cutter. He talked about it in an interview with Foul Territory this week about how, I still got a cutter. My dad threw a cutter and taught me how to throw it. He's like, I feel comfortable with it. I just haven't thrown it this spring because he's been working on other stuff, that new sinker, that new kick change. I don't know. I go back and forth every day of, should it be Rocker? Should it be Leiter? I think if whoever this is just going to start a couple of games early on this season, I think the choice right now for me would be Rocker. But if this injury persists, or if Rangers want to give whoever one of these two guys in this rotation a chance to actually just stick in this rotation for the long haul, for like the whole season, and then I think maybe it's Leiter. But right now, I'm leaning more towards Rocker. Maybe my mind will change after I see Rocker pitch tonight in the game against the San Diego Padres in that split squad game. Maybe it'll change back on Saturday after it seems like maybe Jack Leiter will be pitching in that game. But at this point, it's anyone's guess. And the fact the Rangers have two options this good knocking on the door for that final spot in the rotation only because of an injury is such a great place to be as an organization. But speaking of pitchers, we're going to talk a little bit about Jacob deGrom. Supposed to throw yesterday, might throw today. What's going on with the Rangers ace? Talk about all that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks you can use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who's cutting down the nets. Speaking of who's cutting down the nets in the men's tournament right now, as a former Texas Tech and Alabama student, I'm living big. I mean, right now, Alabama has the fifth best odds to win the national title at plus 1,100. Texas Tech with the seventh best odds at plus 2,500. Tied for the favorite, Duke and Auburn at plus 350. Both of those honestly kind of gross to me. But if you're an A&M fan, that's the next closest school in Texas, plus 5,000 to be cutting down those nets in the men's tournament. So go check out all the action. Visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Shout out to the Air making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. We'll be back on Monday's show talking about what happened this week and hopefully talking about the second Jacob deGrom start of the spring. We will know a little bit more about that probably when the Beats get down there to camp. The Rangers play a couple of different games, split squad tonight. Both of them will be televised, one of them on the Rangers broadcast. That game will be started by, it seems like, John Gray at this point. The other game will be started by Kumar Rocker. That will be against the San Diego Padres. The Rangers game that is going to be broadcast from their own spring training is going to be against the Rockies. So John Gray up against his former team. We haven't seen John Gray in a little bit pitch in an A game, but I'm excited to see what Gray can work on. I'm really, especially with this Bradford injury, more is going to be asked of John Gray. And the Rangers have two different pitchers that have been dealing with some stuff, but it seems like three of the projected opening day starting rotation five have been dealing with some kind of something this week. Bradford is going to start the season on the IL. It doesn't seem like the others are going to. The others are Tyler Mahle and Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom last night was supposed to have his second start, yesterday afternoon, was scheduled for his second start of the spring, scheduled to go somewhere around 3 innings, 40-ish pitches, but weather in the Scottsdale area made that questionable, and so the Rangers were going to throw him on a backfields game, and then the stomach bug caught for Jacob deGrom. Nothing with the elbow, nothing with the shoulder, nothing with the pitching, anything. just good old tummy issues that have been going through the Rangers clubhouse all spring training. Unfortunately, Marcus Semien was dealing with it earlier this week, and he was scratched from a game there. I believe Corey Seager has gone through with it. I know that Bruce Bochy said that he was dealing with it early before spring training, and there was somebody. It's been popping up all over. Unfortunately, it meant that the Rangers would not see Jacob deGrom pitch in that game against San Francisco, but San Francisco's spring training facility doesn't even have StatCast data anyway, so we didn't miss all that much. There was no TV broadcast of the game, so maybe we'll get Jacob deGrom tonight. The Rangers were pushing him back either 24 or 48 hours, so he will, whatever the stomach bug is gone, that's when we will see Jacob deGrom pitch next. Again, I'm thinking it's 3 innings, 41-ish pitches is what I'm hoping for. 30 to 45 pitches, somewhere in that mark. I'm hoping for 3 innings, just add one more inning from what he did last time. Last time he was at around, I think, 31 pitches, so adding 10 to 15 more, that makes sense. Right now, those 2 scheduled starters are Jon Gray and Kumar Rocker. At least this means we're still going to see Kumar Rocker, or maybe it means that Jacob deGrom will pitch on Saturday. I think that's more what it's leaning towards, but there were a couple interviews that I wanted to get to before we get into that. Tyler Mahle, he pitched in a game. It's fine. We're fine, I think. I'm pretty sure we're fine on Mahle, or at least the Rangers are fine on Mahle. He missed his start on Tuesday. That was the game where Jack Leiter just lit up the world and walked the world and struck out the world and was just basically untouchable as long as he was in the strike zone. Mahle, dealing with a little bit of fatigue in his forearm, was just pushed back out of an abundance of caution. He pitched in a B game this weekend. He felt much better. He looked much better. He pitched in a game and he threw 61 pitches, and he looked more than fine. He looked more than fine. He struck out 5. He did give up a couple of runs and a little bit of hard contact, but he didn't walk anybody. And I don't know what the velocity was in those games, but Mahle is feeling much better. Everything is fine. No need to panic. I mean, you see the word forearm discomfort or elbow discomfort, anything in that just area, you freak out. At least I do. That is what experience has taught me to do, because usually that means, oh, something's horribly wrong, everything's going to poo, and things were just going too well on the injury front for the Rangers. But thankfully, no harm, no foul, it seems like, on Mahle at this point. Even if there is a harm or a foul, the Rangers have 2 of those guys fighting for a rotation spot, that final rotation spot that Cody Bradford's injury opened things up to in Rocker and in Leiter. So even if there is something wrong with Mahle, even if he does have to miss a little bit of time, which, again, it's seeming like he doesn't, but just in case, Rangers do have that necessary depth. But there were a couple of things that Bruce Bochy, when he was on Foul Territory, a great show, a 2-hour live show in Rangers camp, talking with a bunch of different guys, including Jack Leiter, who is just honestly such a good interview. I haven't seen what they said to Jake Berger. I'm sure that was a compelling interview. Wyatt Langford's interview was really interesting, but the one that told me the most, I mean, gosh, Leiter is so polished, and honestly, like, there are very few baseball players that say interesting things in interviews, but Jack Leiter is definitely one of them. But Bruce Bochy, when he speaks, usually he will speak in whataboutism, but he was more direct with some of the questions that they were asking, even ones that they didn't ask. He talked about Emiliano Teodo. Earlier this week, I think on yesterday's show, I said that, Bruce Bochy and Chris Young were having a discussion of, okay, we need to figure out what we're going to do with Teodo this year. He looked incredible this camp in relief. The Rangers had to decide, okay, are we going to give this guy a shot to either crack the opening day rotation or opening day bullpen, or at some point in the near future crack that bullpen, or are we going to move him, start to ramp him up in terms of his pitch count and keep him as a starter, which, again, he has been for basically all of his minor league career. Outside of this spring training and outside of an Arizona Fall League stint where he was the reliever of the year in the Arizona Fall League, Teodo has been a starter. He made massive progress this spring training, and he said, I don't care what role I'm in. I want to make the big league club this year. I want to help the big league club now, and it's a faster path if he's a reliever. There's more forgiveness and for him not being in the strike zone all that much, being a little bit more erratic with the control because the stuff is so freaking nasty. And there's not as much a need for him to develop that changeup, that third pitch, which I think could be fringe average. If it's just straight up an average big league pitch with how good his breaking ball is and how good his fastball is, that makes him a potential number 4, number 3 type of ceiling as a starting pitcher, which is very, very valuable. And there's not all that much of in the Rangers system. There is more of it now than there was, 2-3 years ago. But still, that's a valuable type of player that those guys don't grow on trees. Guys that sit 98 also don't grow on trees, and that have that nasty a breaking ball as Teodo does. They don't grow on trees either. And it seems like the Rangers have decided that Teodo is going to be a reliever this year. Now, eventually, he might transition back to being a starter, but it seems like, okay, he's already sent down from Rangers Major League camp, but the Rangers have said, both Chris Young and Bruce Bochy have said, just because he's in minor league camp doesn't mean you haven't made the team. Just don't worry about the big league. Like there's chances for him to be called back up into Major League camp, and I don't think the Rangers are by any means out on him, but potentially even making the opening day roster. I think that'll be a bit of a long shot. I think if there's a guy who is not, who didn't come into camp as a guy who the Rangers thought, oh, for sure this guy's going to be in our bullpen, if there's going to be one of those guys, I don't think it's going to be Teodo. I think it's going to be Mark Church. But both those guys have options, so it's not like if the Rangers pick one over the other, the Rangers have to just get rid of the other one. The other one can just stay in the minor leagues, and then if the Rangers use one of them a whole bunch and they're getting tired, they can call back up the other one. So I thought that was very interesting. He also said that Jacob deGrom is going to be pitching every 6th day, at least to start, versus every 5th day. We're talking about why that's interesting and what else Jacob deGrom said in an interview with Jeff Passan that he is doing to make sure that he's making 30 starts this year and is fully healthy and fully actualized by the time the Rangers hopefully are in the postseason in October. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Shout out to the Air making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. We'll be back next week. I think Tuesday is what I'm planning on for my 3rd Rangers opening day roster projection. I think at that point, if we go much closer, then it'll just be me reading off the opening day roster, and that won't be me projecting anything. But it's changed significantly from the last one that I made about a week and a half ago. That seems like a good time to do it. But getting back to Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher on earth when healthy, and he's healthy right now, and the Rangers are hoping he's healthy all season long. Not just for opening day, because he's not pitching on opening day, not just for his first start, which is going to be the 5th game of the season, but for the whole year, and especially in late September and October, just that entire stretch run, that the Rangers are almost slow playing him. Not even almost. They are slow playing him this year. And he's dialing himself back down. Jacob deGrom talked with Jeff Passan at length about what he's doing to try and stay healthy this year. I mean, he has been this, mythical being since basically 2020. I mean, he hasn't pitched a full season since 2019, the second of his back-to-back Cy Youngs, which should have been 3 straight Cy Youngs. In 2020, he was just as good as ever, if not better, but his best year was 2018, his age 30 season. He had 9.5 baseball reference WAR. Again, let me say that again. 9.5 WAR for a pitcher who made 32 starts. This wasn't 1807 when starting pitchers made 67 starts and they could have, 10-win seasons. He had a 170 ERA, the best of his career for a full season. I think he was at his best for sure in 2021 when he was sitting 99, but back that season he made 32 starts, he had a career high 269 strikeouts, he had a career high for a full season, 218 ERA plus, which means he was more than twice as good as the average pitcher. Again, a 170 ERA in 217 innings. All of those were career highs. The strikeouts, the innings, the number of starts, the ERA, for a full season again, because he had a 108 ERA in 15 starts in 2021. But that season he was sitting 96 miles an hour, as opposed to in 2021 and 22 and even 23, he was more in that 98, 99 average range. And he said, I was putting a lot of stress on my body. That's part of why I kept breaking down. And the thing that makes Jacob deGrom so special is he's throwing 99 and he's dotting it up exactly where he wants. He's also got the nastiest slider we've ever seen. But because he's got that impeccable command, he said, I looked at my best at 2018 and I'm kind of trying to, get myself back there. He's like, I could ramp it up to 100 when I needed to, but he sat around 96. He said, I have to look at it like, hey, I can pitch at that velocity and have success. He said, quote, it's less stress on your body. You go out there, you're throwing 100 miles an hour for however many pitches it is, and it's a lot of stress. It's something I'm going to look into, using it when I need to, backing off and just trusting that I can locate the ball. And he can locate the ball. For sure. That's what makes him so special, is that impeccable command. And just the velocity and the stuff just kept on ramping up to the point where he was just untouchable. You couldn't even breathe and you were down 0-2 when you got in the box against him from 2020 to 2021 and 2022 as well. When he was on the hill, he was just so special. But it's 3 strikes and you're out with Tommy John surgery. He's had 2. He knows, okay, this is what I have to do to get my body ready. He's also talked about the difference between high stress pitch counts and pitch counts not being the only indicator of how much stress it's on his body. The Rangers are really, really monitoring that. And if they can get 30 starts out of him this year, the Rangers are making the playoffs. They're winning the AL West. And if the Rangers get him and Eovaldi healthy for a postseason run, I feel pretty confident in this team at least making the World Series. Now, can anyone dethrone the Dodgers? Who knows? But this guy is just that special, and I'm excited to see what he can do for a full season and what he can do in a Texas Rangers uniform, because it's been a while since he's been out there and crushing it to that degree of just being healthy. Getting 30 starts out of him, whether it's 115 innings or 150, I am just so stoked for deGrom this season. I'm honestly so stoked for this Rangers spring breakout game that's going to be on Saturday. If you have MLB TV, that's where you'll be able to watch it. Also, tonight's game, Split Squad, both of them will be televised. Both of them are night games. One of them is at 8 o'clock Central Time. That is the game that will be on CW33, Channel 9 here locally, if you have that. Or if you have the Rangers Pass from Victory Plus, that's $100 for the full year. You can stream all the in-market games, which is the vast majority of them. It'll be every single Rangers home spring training game. That's at 8 o'clock. If you have MLB TV, you'll be able to watch the other game as well, the Rangers against the San Diego Padres. That's at 8:40. Rangers spring breakout game is also this weekend. Not all that much you should need to know about it, besides there's a bunch of good prospects who you probably won't get to see very much of in other places. There'll be Sebastian Walcott will be in that game. Rangers first round pick Malcolm Moore. That's going to be on a Saturday. If you have MLB TV, that's where you can watch those games. Alejandro Ozuna, who's been crushing it in camp, including having his first home run of the spring, really opened my eyes on him. I think there's basically a 0 chance he makes the Rangers opening day roster, but he's changed my mind. I had him as like a role player, a fourth outfielder, and now, who knows? He's going to be in that game, pitching for the Rangers in that game. Well, at least on the roster, Emiliano Teota will be in that game. Winston Santos, the Rangers' number 5 prospect, according to MLB Pipeline, is going to be there. Brian Magdaleno, who is an interesting lefty. Skylar Hales, who is a big old guy who they call Superman because he's very handsome and throws 100 miles an hour. He'll be pitching in that game almost assuredly. You'll also see Yofran Castillo, who is the Rangers' top 10 prospect, according to most people, who you've not seen much of because he's played about 3 minutes of stateside ball. So go check all of that out. That's going to be on MLB TV on Saturday. And one last last thing before we get out of here, I want to talk about MLB The Show. I am a big MLB The Show player. If you're not, that's fine. I think this segment still has just a little bit of juice for you. The main thing you need to take away, the show game came out, and the Rangers are ranked as the 4th best team in baseball. I saw that and I thought, are you sure? Really? They're the 4th best? I mean, I'm high on the Rangers. I think this is going to be a great season. I thought more people, I should say, were sleeping on the Rangers. And, it has the Rangers behind only the Dodgers, the number 1 team. Yeah, if they didn't have the Dodgers as the number 1 team, that would be dereliction of duty. It'd be like, okay, this game is null and void because the Dodgers are obviously the best team in baseball. Whether they win it all, who knows at this point. But still, they should definitely be the favorites. Number 2 team, the Phillies. That makes sense. I think the Phillies are going to be a fantastic team. Hope their lineup hits a little bit better for Phillies fans' sake. Shout out to Connor of Locked On Phillies. A good podcast if you're a Phillies fan, or even if you're not and just like listening to the Phillies craziness. But the only other team ranked ahead of the Rangers was the Mets. That one I thought was a little bit interesting. I mean, the Mets rotation, there's injuries to it. I don't trust it. I don't. Kodai Senga pitched 6 innings last year in the regular season. He's very good, but how durable, how healthy is he going to be? Also, their number 3 starter, maybe even number 2 starter to start the season, is going to be a converted closer. Now, granted, that converted closer, Clay Holmes, looks very, very good, but still, he hasn't pitched a full workload, so I'm a little concerned about that. Sean Manaea is a little bit injured to start the season. It's going to take a while to ramp him up. They've also got some other concerns, but their lineup has the number 1 rated power, the best power hitting team in baseball, where the Rangers are 2nd in terms of power. You look at the rest of the AL West of where the Rangers are compared to the Astros. The Astros are ranked as the 17th best team in baseball. Oh, chef's kiss. Glorious. As a hater, it is absolutely glorious. Whereas the Mariners, they are ranked the 11th best team in Major League Baseball. So the Rangers, number 4, they are the best team in the AL according to this projection, this ranking, rosters, whatever it is. The Rangers are rated as the best team in the American League with the 2nd best power hitting team. This team's going to hit some dingers. I am excited for how many dingers this lineup is going to hit. In terms of the contact rating, they're 16th. I think they should be a little bit higher in that this lineup is going to crush it. Pitching, 13th best pitching according to MLB The Show. I think that's about accurate. The Rangers rotation, I feel pretty darn good about. The bullpen is not rated super highly because it's a lot of guys who are fine, but there's a lot of them who are at least fine, which to me makes for a pretty decent bullpen. They also got some long shots to make that rush. They also have Mark Church rated very, very low. They also have his average fastball at like 94, which it's not. They also have him throwing a 2-seamer, which he doesn't throw. It's still things that'll get, fixed in the wash. It has them as around exactly middle of the pack in terms of defense, 15th best defensive team. I think that's a little bit low. I think that's a little bit ungenerous. They have Evan Carter rated as a mediocre defender. I think that's, kind of insane, honestly. I think that they need to have, Jonah Heim rated as a little bit better defender. Josh Young, I think they should have rated as a little bit higher of a defender. Adolis, I think will be the push of like how good this Rangers defense is, because Wyatt's going to be out there every day in left field. I think he's going to be a plus to maybe double plus defender. Eventually, I think he moves over to center field, but for right now, the Rangers have said, hey, Wyatt's in left. It's Evan Carter versus Leody Taveras for that center field job. And they have the Rangers the 18th fastest team, or I guess 18th best at stealing bases. Well, that seems about good. So they think the Rangers are going to match. They think the pitching is going to be pretty solid, and the defense and the hitting for average and speed all around middle of the pack. Honestly, I think that's more than a fair rating for this Rangers team. I think rating them as the best team in the AL, I think that's defensible. They're pretty close with the Orioles. But I feel really good about this season. I feel really good about that roster rating, and I feel really good about what we're going to see from Jacob deGrom and whatever's happening with this Rangers rotation. We'll know more about it after Rockers start on Friday night tonight, and hopefully another outing from Leiter where maybe he's in the zone just a little bit more. But that's going to do it for this week's shows. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.